Jake Morrison stood outside the airlock door and took a deep breath. His hands were shaking a little as he looked at the metal plate that read, Harmony 7 Research Station. This was it. His first job working with aliens. He was 24 years old and had just finished engineering school on Earth. When the job posting came up for a human engineer at an alien research station, Jake jumped at the chance. Now that he was here, he felt nervous. The airlock opened with a soft hiss. Jake walked through and immediately noticed how different everything looked. The walls were a soft blue color and seemed to glow slightly. The ceiling was much higher than what humans needed. Strange smells filled the air. Not bad smells, just different. A tall figure approached him. It looked like a human woman but was at least 7 feet tall. She had dark blue skin and wore a white uniform with strange symbols on it. "Welcome to Harmony 7, she said in perfect English. "I am Commander Veltar. You must be Jake Morrison, the new human engineer." Jake nodded. "Yes, that's me. Thank you for having me here. Follow me. I will show you to your quarters and introduce you to your roommate." They walked through long corridors. Jake saw other aliens, some with multiple arms, others with scales instead of skin. A few looked almost human but had different colored eyes or strange markings on their faces. Everyone seemed busy with their work. "Your roommate is Zara Lynn," Commander Veltar explained as they walked. "She is from the Velthrani species. They are very peaceful and kind. She works in the biology labs." Jake felt relieved. At least his roommate would be nice. They stopped at a door marked with symbols Jake could not read. Commander Veltar pressed her hand against a panel, and the door slid open. "Zara Lynn, your new roommate has arrived," she called out. Jake heard soft footsteps from inside the room. Then he saw her. Zara Lynn was beautiful in a way that made Jake's breath catch. She was tall like all the aliens he had seen, maybe 6.5 feet. But what made her special was the soft, silvery fur that covered her entire body. It looked incredibly soft, like the fur of an expensive stuffed animal. Her face was almost human-like, but with larger, darker eyes that seemed to sparkle with intelligence. Her ears were pointed and moved slightly when she looked at him. "Oh," she said in a voice that sounded like music. "He is so small and cute." Jake felt a little embarrassed. He was not exactly tall by human standards, only about 5'8". Next to these aliens, he probably did look tiny. "Jake Morrison, meet Zara Lynn," Commander Veltar said. "I will leave you two to get to know each other. Jake, report to Engineering Bay 3 tomorrow at 800 station time." After the commander left, Jake stood awkwardly in the doorway. The room was larger than his entire apartment back on Earth. It had 2 sleeping areas on opposite sides, each with what looked like beds but were raised platforms with soft materials on top. "Please come in," Zara Lynn said, gesturing with her hand. Her movements were graceful like a dancer. "I am very happy to meet you. I have never seen a human before." Jake walked in and set down his bag. "Nice to meet you too. I hope we will get along well." Zara Lynn tilted her head and her ears twitched. "Your voice is so interesting and you are so compact. Very efficient design." Jake was not sure if that was a compliment or not. "Thanks, I guess." The room was warm, but as the hours passed, it started to get cold. Jake realized the temperature controls were designed for aliens, not humans. He tried to figure out how to adjust them, but the symbols made no sense to him. By bedtime, Jake was shivering. He had brought warm clothes, but they were not enough. The bed platform was comfortable but had only thin covers that worked fine for Zara Lynn's fur, but did nothing for Jake's bare human skin. He lay there trying to sleep, his teeth chattering quietly. He did not want to complain on his first night, but he was really cold. Across the room he heard Zara Lynn moving around. She made soft sounds almost like a cat purring. Jake tried to ignore it and force himself to sleep. After about an hour of shivering, Jake heard footsteps. He opened his eyes and saw Zara Lynn approaching his bed. She was carrying what looked like a large fluffy pillow. "You are cold," she said softly. "I can hear your teeth making noise." "I'm sorry," Jake whispered. "I could not figure out how to make it warmer." Zara Lynn looked confused. She held up the fluffy thing she was carrying. This is a thermal companion from my home world. It helps with sleep and warmth. Jake looked at the object. It was about the size of a small dog and covered in the same type of soft fur as Zara Lynn. It looked like a stuffed animal, but somehow seemed alive. That's very kind, but I do not think I need... Before Jake could finish, Zara Lynn gently pulled him up from his bed. Her hands were incredibly warm, and her fur was even softer than it looked. Come, she said simply. You will freeze if you stay there. She led him to her sleeping area, which was much larger than his. The platform was covered with materials that looked like clouds. Without asking, she gently pushed Jake down onto the soft surface and then lay down next to him. Before Jake could protest, Zara Lynn wrapped her arms around him and pulled him close to her warm, furry body. It was like being hugged by the world's softest blanket. Her fur smelled like flowers and sunshine. Sleep now, she said, her voice already getting drowsy. Much better this way. Jake wanted to explain that humans do not usually sleep with aliens. They just met. He wanted to tell her this was not normal, but he was so warm and comfortable for the first time since arriving at the station. Zara Lynn was purring softly, and the sound was somehow very relaxing. Within minutes, Jake fell into the deepest, most peaceful sleep he had experienced in years. When he woke up the next morning, Zara Lynn was still holding him gently. Her arms were around him like he was a treasured stuffed animal. She was still purring in her sleep, and Jake realized he felt completely rested and happy. This was going to be an interesting assignment. Jake woke up slowly, feeling more rested than he had in months. For a moment he forgot where he was. Then he felt the soft fur against his cheek and remembered everything. He was on an alien space station, being held like a teddy bear by his alien roommate. Zara Lynn was still asleep, her arms wrapped around him. She was making quiet purring sounds that were actually quite soothing. Jake tried to move carefully without waking her up, but as soon as he shifted, her eyes opened. "Good morning, little thermal companion," she said with a smile. Her voice was warm and happy. Jake blinked. "Thermal companion?" "Yes," Zara Lynn said, sitting up gracefully. "You performed your function perfectly. I slept very well." Jake sat up too, confused. "I think there might be some misunderstanding. I am not a thermal companion. I am an engineer. I fix machines and systems." Zara Lynn tilted her head, her ears twitching. "Of course you are very advanced. The best thermal companions can do many tasks during the day. But your primary function is to provide warmth and comfort during sleep time." Jake stared at her. "No, I think you have got this wrong. I am a human being. I am here to work, not to be someone's pet." Zara Lynn made a soft cooing sound. "Such clever responses. You are definitely a superior model." Jake realized that something was very wrong with the translation system. "Zara Lynn, I need to explain something. Humans are intelligent beings, just like Velthrani. We are not pets or companions or toys." "Of course," Zara Lynn said, nodding seriously. "The most expensive thermal companions are almost as smart as real people. That is what makes them so wonderful." Jake put his head in his hands. This was going to be harder than he thought. He got dressed and went to report for his first day of work. Engineering Bay 3 was huge, filled with machines and computers that hummed with energy. The chief engineer was a friendly alien named Cord who had 4 arms and could work on multiple systems at once. "Welcome, Jake," Cord said. "We have heard good things about human engineers. You are supposed to be very good at solving problems." Jake spent the day learning about the station's systems. Everything was more complex than Earth technology, but the basic principles were the same. He found himself enjoying the work, and even managed to fix a small problem with the air recycling system that had been bothering the team for weeks. When he returned to his quarters that evening, he found Zara Lynn waiting for him with a concerned expression. "You were gone for so long," she said, rushing over to him. "I was worried you might be sick or damaged." I was just working, Jake explained. Remember? I am an engineer. Yes, yes, Zaralyn said, gently guiding him to sit down. Very impressive work functions. But now it is time for you to rest and prepare for thermal companion duties. She had prepared what looked like a meal, but it was clearly not human food. Everything was soft and came in small, bite-sized pieces. It actually tasted pretty good, but Jake felt like he was being fed like a pet. Zaralyn, Jake said carefully, where I come from, thermal companions are usually small animals. They do not talk or have jobs or think for themselves. How sad, Zaralyn replied. Your planet must have very primitive thermal companions. Here, the best ones are almost like having a real person with you, but they are designed to provide comfort and warmth without the complications of actual relationships. Jake was starting to understand. In her culture, thermal companions were like very advanced pets that were bred or made to be perfect sleeping partners. She thought humans were just a really sophisticated version of that. But what if I told you that humans are real people, not companions? Jake asked. Zaralyn laughed, a sound like silver bells. That would be silly. Real people are too complicated and unpredictable to be good thermal companions. They have their own wants and needs and problems. A thermal companion is designed to be perfectly caring and comforting. Jake realized that by being caring and trying to adapt to her culture, he was actually proving her point. From her perspective, he was acting exactly like the perfect thermal companion would act. That night, Zaralyn again pulled him into her sleeping area. This time, Jake did not resist. He had to admit that he slept better when she held him. Her warm fur and gentle purring were incredibly relaxing. Maybe being mistaken for a super advanced pet was not the worst thing that could happen. Over the next few days, a pattern developed. During the day, Jake worked in engineering and impressed everyone with his problem-solving skills. The other engineers started calling him the human wonder because he could find simple solutions to complex problems. But when he came home, Zaralyn treated him like the most precious pet in the galaxy. She made sure he was fed, warm, and comfortable. She would brush his hair gently and seemed to worry whenever he was out of her sight for too long. Jake found himself looking forward to both parts of his day. Work was exciting and challenging, but coming home to Zaralyn's caring attention was something he had never experienced before. No one had ever taken care of him like this. Other humans on the station started noticing changes in Jake. Lisa Chen, the human liaison officer, stopped him in the hallway one day. Jake, you look different, she said. More relaxed, happier. How are you adjusting to life with an alien roommate? Jake was not sure how to explain. It is interesting. Zaralyn is very caring. That's great. The Velthrani are known for being nurturing. Just remember to maintain professional boundaries. Jake nodded, but he was not sure what those boundaries should be. Was it professional to let his roommate think he was an advanced pet? Probably not. But was it wrong if it made both of them happy? That evening, Jake tried again to explain his true nature to Zaralyn. Zaralyn, I need you to understand something important. On my planet, I have my own house. I make my own decisions. I have friends and family. I am not owned by anyone. Zaralyn listened carefully, then smiled. What an amazing backstory they programmed into you. It makes you seem so real and independent. Jake sighed. It is not a backstory. It is my actual life. Of course it feels real to you, Zaralyn said gently. That is what makes you such a wonderful companion. You truly believe you are a free individual. Jake realized that in her mind, the more he insisted he was real, the more it proved how advanced and sophisticated he was as a thermal companion. He was trapped in a logical loop. But as Zaralyn pulled him close for another night of perfect sleep, Jake had to admit that being trapped was not entirely unpleasant. Tomorrow he would try again to make her understand. Tonight, he would just enjoy being cared for. 2 weeks had passed since Jake arrived at Harmony 7 and he was getting frustrated. Every day he tried to convince Zaralyn that he was a real person, not a pet. Every day she would smile and tell him how clever he was for having such detailed programming. Jake was walking through the station corridors when he ran into Dr. Amy Foster, the human xenobiologist. She was one of the few other humans on the station. "Jake, how are you settling in?" Amy asked. She was a friendly woman in her 30s with red hair and a warm smile. "I am having some communication problems with my roommate," Jake admitted. "Translation issues? Those can be tricky with new species." "What kind of problems?" Jake felt embarrassed. "She thinks I am some kind of advanced pet. No matter what I say, she does not believe I am actually intelligent." Amy frowned. "That is strange. The Velthrani are usually very good at recognizing intelligence in other species. Let me run a diagnostic on your translator unit." They went to Amy's lab where she connected Jake's translator to her computer. After a few minutes, her eyes widened. "Oh no," she said. "Jake, I found the problem. Your translator has been malfunctioning since you arrived. Everything you have been saying is being translated as cute animal sounds." Jake felt his heart sink. "What do you mean? When you say I am an intelligent being, it comes out as something like adorable squeaking noises. When you say I have my own thoughts and feelings, it translates as happy, purring sounds." "That explains everything," Jake said. "No wonder she thinks I am just making pet noises." Amy fixed the translator and ran several tests to make sure it was working properly. "There," she said. "Now you can have a real conversation with Zaralyn." Jake hurried back to his quarters, excited to finally clear up the misunderstanding. He found Zara Lynn in the biology lab section of their room, working with some strange glowing plants. "Zara Lynn," Jake said carefully, "I need to tell you something important." She looked up from her work. "What is it, little one?" "I am not a thermal companion. I am an intelligent being just like you. I have thoughts, feelings, and my own life. I am here as an engineer, not as anyone's pet." Zara Lynn's eyes grew very wide. She stared at Jake for a long moment, then sat down heavily in her chair. You can really talk?" she whispered. "Yes, I have been trying to tell you this for 2 weeks," Jake said. Zara Lynn put her hands over her face. "Oh no, this is terrible. I have been treating you like a pet. I have been making you sleep with me and feeding you, and you must think I am horrible." Jake was surprised by her reaction. He had expected her to be happy to learn the truth. Instead, she looked upset and embarrassed. "It is okay," Jake said quickly. "You did not know. It was not your fault." "But I should have realized," Zara Lynn said. "You were doing such complex work during the day. You were solving problems that even our best engineers could not figure out. How could I have been so blind?" Jake sat down next to her. "The translation system was broken. You were hearing everything I said as animal noises. Anyone would have made the same mistake." Zara Lynn looked at him with her large, dark eyes. "You have been tolerating my treatment of you, while also doing incredibly important work for the station. How is that possible?" "Humans are pretty adaptable," Jake said with a small smile. "We can adjust to strange situations. But why did you not fight back? Why did you let me treat you like a pet?" Jake thought about it. "Well, honestly, I have never been taken care of like that before. It was actually quite nice to have someone worry about me and make sure I was comfortable. And you were always so gentle and kind." Zara Lynn looked confused. "You enjoyed being treated like a thermal companion?" "Parts of it, yes," Jake admitted. "I liked sleeping next to you. You are very warm and soft, and your purring helps me relax. I have been sleeping better than I ever have in my life. But surely you want your independence back. You want to sleep in your own bed and make your own choices." Jake was quiet for a moment. "Can I ask you something? Why did you start having trouble sleeping after the first few nights?" Zara Lynn looked surprised. "How did you know about that?" "I noticed you were restless when I had to work late, and sometimes you make worried sounds in your sleep." Zara Lynn hesitated. "I have always had difficulty sleeping alone. On my homeworld, we always sleep in family groups. Being alone on this station has been very hard for me. When you arrived, I finally felt comfortable and safe again. So I was helping you too," Jake said. "Yes, but I was using you." I thought. You were just a thing designed to help me sleep. Jake reached out and gently touched Zara Lynn's furry hand. You were not using me. We were helping each other. That is what friends do. Friends? Zara Lynn asked hopefully. Yes, friends. Maybe we can figure out a way to continue helping each other, now that we both know the truth. Zara Lynn smiled for the first time since learning about the translation error. I would like that very much, but I want to make sure you are choosing to help me, not just putting up with my behavior. I am choosing, Jake said. But maybe we can make some changes. I would like to be treated as an equal, not as a pet. And I would like to understand more about your culture and your work. And I would very much like to learn about humans, Zara Lynn said. Your species is remarkable. The fact that you can adapt so well to completely alien situations while still maintaining your own identity is amazing. That evening, they had their first real conversation. Zara Lynn told Jake about her homeworld, where cities were built in Tewam, giant trees and families lived together in large warm nests. She explained her research into alien plant biology and how she was trying to find new food sources for space travelers. Jake told her about Earth, about his childhood in a small town, and about his dream of exploring space and working with alien technology. He explained human culture and why most humans preferred to sleep alone, but also why he personally enjoyed the comfort of sleeping next to her. So, you really want to continue sharing my sleeping space? Zara Lynn asked. If you want me to. Jake said. But as a choice between friends, not because you think I am programmed to do it. I would love that, Zara Lynn said. But I want to make sure you are always comfortable. If you ever want your own space, you just need to tell me. That night they lay down together as they had for the past 2 weeks. But this time it felt different. Instead of Zara Lynn holding Jake like a pet, they were two friends choosing to comfort each other. Jake? Zara Lynn said softly in the darkness. Yes? I am sorry, I thought you were just a thermal companion. But I am very glad you are really you. I am glad too, Jake said. Good night, Zara Lynn. Good night, my dear friend. 3 days after the translation fix, Jake was working in Engineering Bay 3 when all the lights suddenly went out. Emergency power kicked in a few seconds later, bathing everything in red light. Cord's voice came over the communication system. All engineering staff to stations. We have a critical failure in the main power core. Jake rushed to the main control room with the other engineers. The situation was bad. A power surge had damaged several key systems, and the backup generators were failing one by one. We have maybe 6 hours before life support fails completely, announced Chief Engineer Cord, his 4 arms moving quickly over different control panels. The problem is in Section C7, but that area is restricted to Velthrani-only access. Jake looked at the station schematics. Why is it restricted? The tunnels are too small for most species, Cord explained. Only Velthrani can fit through the maintenance passages, and their biotechnology is integrated with our power systems. But all the Velthrani engineers are off station right now except for the biology staff. What about the biology staff? Jake asked. They do not have engineering training. They would not know how to fix the power systems. Jake studied the technical drawings. The passages were indeed very small, designed for the slender Velthrani body type. But Jake was smaller than most species on the station. I might be able to fit through those passages, Jake said. Cord looked at him doubtfully. Even if you could fit, you would need someone to guide you. The Velthrani biotechnology requires special knowledge to interface with. Jake had an idea. What if I worked with one of the Velthrani biologists? Someone who knows their technology, but could guide me through the engineering repairs? That could work, Cord said slowly. But it would be very dangerous. The passages are filled with live power conduits. I know someone who might help, Jake said. Zara Lynn knows Velthrani biotechnology better than anyone. Jake contacted Zara Lynn and explained the emergency. She arrived in the engineering bay within minutes looking worried. I want to help, she said, but I do not know anything about power systems and engineering. You do not need to, Jake explained. I know the engineering. You know the Velthrani biotechnology. If we work together, we can fix this. Cord showed them the problem areas on the schematics. The main issue is here, where the biological power conduits connect to the mechanical systems. Something has caused them to reject the connection. Zaralyn studied the diagrams. I understand. The biological components think the mechanical systems are foreign invaders. They are trying to protect themselves by cutting off the connection. Can you fix that? Jake asked. I think so, but I would need to be there to communicate with the biological components. They respond to Velthrani biosignals. Then we go together, Jake said. The entrance to the restricted section was barely large enough for Jake to crawl through. Zaralyn, being taller and more slender, had to move very carefully to avoid damaging the delicate equipment lining the passages. The tunnels were dark and cramped. Jake had to crawl on his hands and knees while carrying a bag of tools. Behind him, Zaralyn moved like a graceful cat, her natural flexibility allowing her to navigate the tight spaces. The Velthrani who designed this station were much smaller than modern Velthrani, Zaralyn explained as they crawled. That is why these passages are so tiny. They reached the first problem area, where a biological power conduit had separated from a mechanical coupling. In the dim emergency lighting, Jake could see that the biological component was actually alive. It pulsed and moved like a living thing. It is frightened, Zaralyn said, placing her hand near the biological component. She made soft sounds in her native language, and the component seemed to calm down. I am telling it that we are here to help. Jake worked carefully to repair the mechanical side of the connection, while Zaralyn communicated with the biological component. It was unlike anything he had ever done before, combining traditional engineering with what was almost like veterinary medicine. Try connecting them now, Zaralyn said. Jake carefully joined the mechanical and biological components. This time, instead of rejecting the connection, the biological part seemed to welcome it. Power levels improved immediately. It worked, Jake said. They moved through the tunnels to fix 3 more connection points. Each time, Jake handled the mechanical repairs while Zaralyn calmed and guided the biological components. They made a perfect team. At the final repair site, they encountered a bigger problem. The biological component was not just frightened, it was sick. It was much larger than the others and seemed to be in pain. This is the main power regulator, Zaralyn said with concern. It is very old and has been working too hard. I think it is dying. Can you heal it? Jake asked. I can try, but I will need time. And I need to maintain physical contact with it while I work. Jake looked at the mechanical systems connected to the biological regulator. I see the problem. The mechanical side is demanding too much power too quickly. If I can modify the power flow controls, it will be easier on the biological component. They worked together for almost an hour. Jake carefully modified the mechanical systems to reduce stress on the biological component, while Zaralyn used her knowledge of Velthrani biology to heal the suffering organism. I think that did it, Zaralyn said finally. The large biological component had stopped pulsing frantically and seemed to be resting peacefully. Jake made the final connections, and immediately the tunnel filled with the hum of restored power. They crawled back through the passages, exhausted but victorious. When they emerged into the engineering bay, all the lights had come back on and the control panel showed normal power levels throughout the station. Incredible, Cord said, staring at the readouts. You have not only fixed the immediate problem, but improved overall efficiency by 15%. Commander Veltar arrived as Jake and Zaralyn were cleaning up. I have been watching the reports of your repair work, she said. What you accomplished should have been impossible. Jake, you navigated passages designed for Velthrani anatomy. Zaralyn, you successfully interfaced with engineering systems outside your field. How did you do it? Jake looked at Zaralyn and smiled. We learned to work together. I adapted to her world, and she adapted to mine. The human was remarkable, Zaralyn added. He not only fit into spaces designed for my people, but he understood how to work with our biotechnology in ways I have never seen before. Commander Veltar looked thoughtful. Jake, I am beginning to understand something about humans. You are able to bridge differences between species in ways we have not seen before. Word of their success spread quickly throughout the station. Other species began asking for Jake's help with problems that required cooperation between different types of technology or different cultural approaches. That evening, as Jake and Zaralyn settled down to sleep, she looked at him with new admiration. I am beginning to understand why humans are so special, she said. You do not just adapt to other species, you help them adapt to each other. We make a good team, Jake replied. Yes, Zaralyn agreed, wrapping her arms around him in their familiar sleeping arrangement. We make a very good team indeed. As Jake drifted off to sleep, he realized that being mistaken for a thermal companion had actually taught him something valuable. Sometimes the best way to understand someone else was to let them take care of you. And sometimes taking care of someone else taught you things about yourself you never knew. 1 month after the power crisis, Jake found himself becoming something of a celebrity on Harmony 7. Representatives from different species would come to him with problems that required cooperation between their technologies and cultures. Word was spreading to other stations and even other star systems about the human who could work with anyone. Jake was in his quarters reading technical manuals when his communication device chimed. It was an official message from Earth Command. Jake, Morrison, you have been recommended for promotion to Senior Interspecies Engineering Coordinator. This position would require you to transfer to the new flagship station Olympus Prime, where you would lead a team of engineers from 12 different species. Jake stared at the message. It was an amazing opportunity, the kind of career advancement most engineers could only dream of. But it would mean leaving Harmony 7. It would mean leaving Zaralyn. When Zaralyn returned from her lab that evening, she immediately noticed that Jake looked troubled. What is wrong? She asked, sitting down beside him on their shared sleeping platform. Jake showed her the message. She read it carefully, her ears twitching as she always did when she was thinking hard. This is wonderful news, she said finally. But her voice sounded sad. You should accept it. I do not want to leave, Jake said quietly. But this is your dream, is it not? To work with alien technology and explore space? It was, Jake admitted, but that was before I found something more important. Zaralyn looked at him with her large, dark eyes. What did you find? Home, Jake said simply. I found a place where I belong. I found someone who cares about me. I found you. Zaralyn was quiet for a long moment. Then she moved closer and wrapped her arms around him in the gentle way that had become so familiar and comforting. I care about you too, she said softly. More than I ever thought possible. When I first thought you were a thermal companion, I loved having you near me. But now that I know you are really you, I love you even more. Love? Jake asked, looking up at her. Yes, Zaralyn said, her cheeks turning a darker shade of silver. Is that wrong? I know we are different species, but Jake silenced her by reaching up and gently touching her furry cheek. It is not wrong. I love you too. They held each other close, and Jake realized that this was what he really wanted. Not just career, success, or adventure, but this feeling of being completely accepted and cared for by someone who mattered to him. But you should still take the promotion, Zaralyn said. I will not let you give up your future for me. Jake had an idea. What if I do not have to choose? What if there was a way for both of us to have what we want? The next day, Jake sent a response to Earth Command. Instead of simply accepting or declining the promotion, he made a counter-proposal. 2 weeks later, Jake and Zaralyn were called to Commander Veltar's office. When they arrived, they found not only the commander, but also Admiral Lisa Chen from Earth Command appearing by video communication. Jake, Admiral Chen said, your counter-proposal was quite unusual. You want to accept the promotion, but only if Zaralyn can be transferred with you as your partner in the new interspecies cooperation program. Yes, Admiral, Jake said. Our work together during the power crisis proved that humans and Velthrani can accomplish things neither species could do alone. I believe this partnership could be valuable for the program. And Zara Lynn, Admiral Chen continued, you are willing to leave your current research to work in this new field? I am very interested in the challenge, Zara Lynn replied. Working with Jake has shown me that combining different types of knowledge can create amazing results. I would like to help other species learn to work together the way we have. Admiral Chen smiled. Well, your success on Harmony 7 speaks for itself. The Morrison method of interspecies cooperation is already being studied at the Academy. I think this partnership could be exactly what the program needs. Commander Veltar added, I support this proposal completely. Jake and Zara Lynn have solved problems here that we thought were impossible. Other stations could benefit from their approach. 3 months later, Jake and Zara Lynn arrived at Olympus Prime, the newest and largest space station ever built. Their quarters were specially designed to accommodate both human and Veltrani needs, including a sleeping area that was perfect for both species. Their official title was Interspecies Integration Specialists, but everyone on the station soon started calling them the Miracle Workers. They helped a team of engineers from the crystalline Zephyrite species work with the liquid-based technology of the Aquarians. They taught the methodical mechanoids how to cooperate with the intuitive empaths. But their greatest success was establishing the Cultural Exchange Sleep Program. Based on their own experience, they discovered that many conflicts between species came from lack of trust and understanding. By creating opportunities for species to literally sleep safely near each other, they built bonds that made cooperation much easier. The program became so successful that other stations started requesting their own versions of it. Jake and Zara Lynn traveled throughout the galaxy, teaching other beings how to bridge the gaps between different cultures and technologies. One evening, as they were settling down to sleep in their quarters on Olympus Prime, Zara Lynn looked at Jake with a contented smile. Do you ever regret that I thought you were a thermal companion? She asked. Jake thought about it. No, he said finally. If you had not made that mistake, we might never have gotten to know each other the way we did. Sometimes the best relationships start with misunderstandings. I still feel embarrassed about treating you like a pet, Zara Lynn said, and I am grateful that you took such good care of me, Jake replied. You taught me what it felt like to be completely accepted and cared for. That is not something I want to forget. Zara Lynn purred softly and pulled Jake close to her. No, she said. Even though I understand now that you are not actually a thermal companion, you are still the most comforting presence I have ever known. And you are still the warmest, softest, most caring being in the galaxy, Jake replied. As they drifted off to sleep, Jake reflected on how much his life had changed. He had come to Harmony 7 as a nervous young engineer, hoping to work with alien technology. He was leaving as part of a partnership that was changing how species throughout the galaxy understood each other. But the most important change was personal. He had learned that sometimes the best way to find yourself was to let someone else take care of you. And sometimes the best way to find love was to be completely vulnerable with someone who thought you were something else entirely. In his final Report to Earth Command, Jake wrote, Humans have a unique ability to adapt to alien cultures while maintaining our own identity. This allows us to serve as bridges between species that might otherwise never understand each other. Our greatest strength is not our technology or our intelligence, but our capacity to find common ground with beings who are completely different from us. The report concluded, The human advantage in interspecies relations is simple. We are willing to be misunderstood if it means we can eventually create understanding. Years later, the Jake and Zara Lynn model of interspecies cooperation would be taught in schools throughout the galaxy. But for Jake and Zara Lynn themselves, the greatest success was much simpler. Every night, they went to sleep in each other's arms. Two beings from different worlds who had found a way to make each other feel completely at home in the vast, strange universe. And every night, as Zara Lynn's gentle purring lulled Jake to sleep, he remembered that sometimes the best adventures begin with someone mistaking you for exactly what you turn out to be, the perfect companion for their journey through life.